Hi. I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind since yesterday. When I did my last video, and I it's just something that is in my life, and it's something that makes me nervous and kind of self-conscious. And so I just want to be kind of transparent about it, because I feel like that's what brings it out, and other people can see that they're normal and that it's okay. So as you guys know, I was in a very toxic relationship for 8 years. I kind of changed everything in my life for this person to try to make things work and um be kind of not the problem, I guess. And I still have some things that linger, even after being out of that relationship for as long as I have been. And one of the things that I have is I talk in very nondescript terms. And this comes from my ex constantly gaslighting me and telling me that I was misremembering things, or that, basically making me appear to be unwell or crazy, um, or making me feel like I couldn't remember things, and that I didn't know what was happening and going on in our relationship because I couldn't say anything right. And so I started to talk in these very generic terms that didn't tie me down to anything. So I would say things like, I'm trying to think of a great example, but I would say things like, I'm thinking. So in my video yesterday I kept saying I'm thinking, and it's thoughts about this or thoughts about that, except for I wasn't being descriptive about what I was talking about. And that I was talking about covering up your pain underneath with this fresh layer, right? Where everything appears okay, but that it's not. And when the snow melts away or that covering goes away, you're left with what's there still. All that underneath stuff that, if you haven't dealt with, is going to come up. And I found myself struggling to get the words out precisely because I spent so long not wanting to allow space for him to be able to say anything to me about, well, you said this, or you said that, or you said this other thing, or I didn't say that. You're misremembering, Jenny. And so I learned to speak in very generic terms so that I could exist in my relationship with him. And I know there are things that we kind of live with that are these side effects of being in toxic relationships, or with a narcissist, or just in an unhealthy relationship with our parents or our siblings or our friends. We learn how to change ourselves to reduce the conflict in our relationships instead of being true to ourselves and letting go of those toxic people. And so some of the things that I never had before that still linger in me are things like anxiety. I get nervous in situations that I never used to get nervous in. I cared a lot more about other people's opinions than I ever did. I don't trust anyone. That's a real thing for me, that I'm still working through. I'm always looking for that. And I'm not even talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about relationships in general, friendships, relationships with my family. I'm always hey, wait, they're saying this. Do they actually mean that, or do they mean something else? And is this going to come back to hurt me later because they're unhealthy, or because I pinned myself in a corner? And so I work really hard, like subconsciously, right? To not pin myself down to certain words or feelings or emotions. And I'm very intentional when I actually say something that I mean, that it's actually something that I can always know is always true for me. And that can be really exhausting. It is for me. It's very exhausting. Always, like, so I'm always going in my brain, and my brain is always 100 miles an hour, making sure that I don't say something that someone can use against me. And it's never like, I'm never like having bad intentions. That's just not who I am. But because my intentions were always turned around and used against me as if I was having bad intentions, I'm very cautious in that. And it takes a lot of time for me to trust someone, right? So then there's also like these other things that when you leave a toxic relationship, that just kind of hangs on with you. So like chronic stress, fatigue, headaches, stomach issues, sleeping problems. This was a huge one for me. When I first left my toxic relationship, I would, like, sleep was the time that all my anxiety would come out, and I would have these bad dreams. And because that's when I was like processing my pain. And so I didn't want to sleep. So I would go 22 hours of the day going and going and going and going and not really doing anything, just not allowing myself to focus on my pain, feel my pain, heal from my pain. And that was like a real thing for me. It was probably 2 or 3 months before I actually got like a good night's sleep, where I wasn't having bad dreams and I wasn't kind of just laying in bed like thinking of all the things that I was going through. It was a really traumatic time. I'm glad I made it through it, and I am thankful that like I allowed myself that space to heal, because it was instrumental in moving forward. But it was a lot. Um so some of the other things that you might struggle with are like isolating from family and friends. I did this. I didn't want anyone to know how bad I was doing, and I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. And like their words weren't really that helpful, so I didn't really feel like it was worth the trauma to talk about what was happening for me too. Like it was kind of a selfish thing, but also I didn't feel like anyone understood. Um and so like I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're at that point where you're experiencing kind of the after effects and the side effects, or that you can even recognize that you are. For me, it was other people like, we know you're talking, but you're not saying anything that makes sense. You're saying a bunch of words, but you're not really saying anything. And I heard this feedback kind of over and over again. And it really forced me to take a look at why I was doing that and where it had come from. And then once I did recognize it, I would see it in my patterns and in how I talked. And it's much worse when I get nervous, because I am not typically someone who puts myself out there. Like doing lives and videos is not something that comes naturally to me, but like it's my passion. I want to help people and allow them to like not feel alone. Like that's really important to me. And so doing those things kind of brings those other side effects to the surface, right? My feelings of inadequacy, my feelings of um is my voice worth being heard? And is like is it okay that like when I talk sometimes it's not perfect? And like I'm getting to that point where like, yeah, it's okay because other people are feeling the same thing. And so I just wanted you to know my heart on that. Like, I'm going to keep putting things out. I'm going to keep encouraging you guys because I know the way to feel better. I can show you how to love yourself again, how to find your purpose, how to find joy in the things that you've stopped doing because the other person in your life was like, well, that's dumb. You can let go of those things, but it takes specific and like strategic work to get there. And you can do it. I have faith in you. Reach out to me. Like, I really understand where you're at, and I want to be there to support you. So, wherever you're at in your journey, it is 100% okay. Love yourself where you're at. If you're just you're getting out and you're not sleeping and you're stressed to the max because you don't know how you're going to feed your kids, or you don't know how you're going to make it through one more day and you don't even want to get out of bed, or you're still in it and you're like, okay, I have to do all these things right now. What can I start doing? I can start loving myself and not listening to those voices that tell me I'm not okay, because you are. You are perfectly and wonderfully made. You are exactly who you were meant to be, and someone else's opinion of you really doesn't matter. If they're trying to bring you down, let it go. Don't listen. You can do it. That's like the first step, is learning to know that you're okay and not listening to what they have to say. You might have to hear it, like, just in one ear, out the other. That's okay. I spent many years just hearing but not listening, because his opinions of me didn't matter. The opinions of my God, who made me and created me exactly how he wanted me to be, and my opinion of myself are the things that mattered. They're also the things that gave me the strength to leave once I realized really what was happening. So, you've got this. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't. The side effects are icky. I'm not gonna lie. But you can make them through. You can make it through. You've got the strength inside you. You have the strength just around you. So be courageous and be brave wherever you're at. You will make it through this. I promise it is possible. So reach out. Tell me how you're doing. Put a comment in down below, like where you're at. What have you done that has made this journey better? What steps are you taking right now to do those little things that help you to love yourself better so that you can make the choices in your life to get where you want to be? I would love to know that. I would love to know how I can help. All right, you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to hearing from you. It would be the best part of my day. See y'all.